The signal from beyond. Captain Nora Volkov stood at the observation deck of the UES Intrepid, watching the stars streak by in ribbons of light. Earth's newest deep space vessel represented humanity's growing confidence in the cosmos, a confidence that many alien species found unsettling. "Magnificent, isn't it?" remarked Dr. Javier Ortega, the ship's xenobiologist, as he joined her at the viewport. 300 years ago, we were struggling to reach our own moon. Now we're crossing sectors in days. Nora nodded, her steel-gray eyes reflecting the starlight. At 42, she had earned her command through 15 years of exemplary service, navigating humanity's complex relationship with the Galactic Assembly, the coalition of advanced species that had reluctantly accepted Earth into their ranks only a decade ago. "Captain," Lieutenant Darius Wright's voice came through the comm system. "We're detecting an unusual signal. You might want to see this." When Volkov reached the bridge, Wright was hunched over his communications panel, his dark fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "It appeared about 20 minutes ago, Captain," he explained. "Initially, I thought it was background radiation, but there's a clear pattern. Look." The main display showed a sequence of pulses, repeating with mathematical precision. "It's a deliberate transmission," said Commander Theo Nakamura, Volkov's executive officer. Tall and thoughtful, with a cybernetic left eye that glowed faintly, Nakamura had served with Volkov for 7 years. "Someone's broadcasting basic mathematical sequences, prime numbers, Fibonacci series." "Universal language," Volkov murmured. "Where's it coming from?" "Tau Ceti system," Wright replied. "About 12 light-years from Earth." "There shouldn't be anyone broadcasting from there," Nakamura said, pulling up the star chart. According to Assembly records, Tau Ceti is part of the Preserve, a region where developing civilizations are kept isolated for their own protection. "Or so they claim," Volkov said quietly. The Assembly's Preservation Directive had always struck Volkov as suspicious. Earth itself had nearly been categorized as a preserve world before humans developed faster-than-light travel independently, forcing the Assembly to acknowledge them. "The signal's intensity is fluctuating," Wright observed. "Almost like a distress call," Volkov finished. "Send a response, same mathematical sequence with slight alterations. Let them know we're listening." Before Wright could comply, another alert sounded. "Incoming transmission from the Assembly outpost in our sector, priority channel." The bridge screen flickered, revealing the elongated face of Diplomat Zevran, the Assembly's liaison to human space. The Veldari's slender, almost translucent body seemed to shimmer with agitation. "Captain Volkov, our monitoring systems have detected your interest in a signal from the Tau Ceti region," Zevran said, their voice melodious despite the obvious tension. "We must insist you disregard this transmission." "May I ask why, Diplomat?" Volkov responded evenly. "Tau Ceti houses a protected species, the Cerathi. They are not yet ready for interstellar contact. The signal is likely an accidental broadcast from their primitive communications experiments." "It seems quite deliberate," Volkov countered. "The mathematical sequence suggests a universal method of communication." "Nevertheless," Zevran's voice hardened, "the Preservation Committee has exclusive jurisdiction over the Cerathi development. Any interference would violate Assembly statutes that Earth has agreed to honor." After the transmission ended, a heavy silence fell over the bridge. "They responded awfully quickly to a signal we only detected 20 minutes ago," Nakamura observed. "And they seemed unusually concerned about a supposedly primitive broadcast," added Lieutenant Freya Lindholm from the tactical station, her Nordic features set in a suspicious frown. Volkov considered her options. Earth's standing in the Assembly was precarious at best. Many older species regarded humans with a mixture of fear and disdain. Deathworlders was their favorite term, a reference to Earth's relatively harsh conditions that had shaped humanity's resilience and adaptability. "Dr. Ortega," she called over the comm, "what do we know about the Cerathi?" "Almost nothing, Captain," came his reply. "The Assembly keeps information about preserved species highly classified. But I can tell you the Tau Ceti system contains planets rich in quantum resonance crystals, extremely valuable for advanced computing and energy systems." Volkov exchanged glances with Nakamura. Quite a coincidence. She made her decision. Lieutenant Wright, send a response to that signal. Lieutenant Lindholm, plot a course to the Tau Ceti system, maximum speed. Commander Nakamura, prepare a briefing for the crew. We're about to bend some rules. Captain, Nakamura said cautiously, the assembly will consider this a major violation. Volkov's expression hardened. Someone is calling for help, Theo. I don't care what the assembly says, that's a distress signal. And I don't know about you, but humans don't ignore distress signals. The Intrepid dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Tau Ceti system, sensors running passive to avoid immediate detection. What they found was worse than Volkov had feared. Multiple assembly vessels in orbit around the fourth planet, Lindholm reported. Construction facilities, mining operations. This isn't preservation, it's exploitation. The planet below was a beautiful blue-green world with sprawling continents and shallow seas. But even from orbit, they could see the scars, vast mining operations tearing into the surface, and what appeared to be population centers reduced to ruins. The signals coming from here, Wright indicated a mountainous region on the northern continent. It's gotten weaker, but it's still broadcasting. Any sign they've detected us? Volkov asked. Negative, Captain. Their attention seems focused planet-side. Volkov made another decision. Prepare a shuttle. Small team, myself, Dr. Ortega, Lieutenant Lindholm, and for security personnel. Commander Nakamura, you have the Intrepid. If we're not back in 6 hours, or if the assembly ships make any aggressive moves, take the ship back to Earth and report what we found. The shuttle descended through a storm front to mask their approach, landing in a dense forest of strange purple leaf trees several kilometers from the signal source. The away team moved cautiously through the alien landscape, their environmental suits analyzing the atmosphere. Air's breathable, Ortega confirmed. Slightly higher oxygen content than Earth, but nothing harmful. As they crested a ridge, Volkov stopped abruptly. Below lay the ruins of what must have been a magnificent city, crystal spires, now shattered, reflecting the light in prismatic patterns. And among the ruins were bodies, hundreds of them. My God, Lindholm whispered. Dr. Ortega scanned the nearest bodies with his equipment. These aren't combat casualties, he said, his voice shaking. They were executed. Precision wounds to what appears to be their central nervous system. The Serathi were beautiful beings, tall and graceful with iridescent blue skin that shimmered with patterns of light. Their four-fingered hands were clearly designed for delicate work, and their large, facete eyes suggested visual perception beyond the human spectrum. Movement ahead, one of the security officers whispered, pointing toward a partially intact structure. Volkov led them carefully forward, keeping to cover. Inside the building, a small group of Serathi, perhaps 30 individuals of various sizes, huddled together in fear. We need to communicate, Volkov said quietly. Right, can you broadcast the response pattern we sent earlier? The lieutenant activated his comm device, sending out the mathematical sequence they had prepared. Almost immediately, the Serathi reacted. One taller individual slowly stood, looking directly toward their position. Volkov stepped into the open, her hands raised to show she carried no weapons. The tall Serathi approached cautiously, its facete eyes studying her intently. Then, to everyone's astonishment, it spoke in halting English. You, not assembly. You, answered call. We're humans, from Earth, Volkov replied gently. We heard your distress signal. The assembly said, no one would come, the Serathi said. Said we need protection. Said we not ready for stars. Its melodic voice turned bitter. Then they found our crystals. The Serathi, who introduced himself as Elder Vex Illinois, explained that his people had developed faster-than-light theory only 15 years ago. The assembly had immediately placed them under protection, claiming they needed guidance before joining the galactic community. They said, help us grow safely, Vex Illinois continued. Then they found resonance crystals in our mountains. When our council questioned, when we said no to mining, they showed us what protection means. Volkov's comm unit beeped urgently. Captain, came Nakamura's tense voice. Multiple assembly vessels have changed course, they are heading to your position. They know you're there. Volkov looked at the surviving Sarathai, then back at her team. Her decision was immediate. Elder Vex Illinois, we can take you somewhere safe, away from here. Will you come with us? The Sarathai looked back at his people, then at Volkov. You help us, even against assembly. That's what humans do, Volkov said simply. We help those who need it. As they hurried the Sarathai survivors toward their shuttle, the sky above them darkened with approaching assembly vessels. Lieutenant Wright's console beeped again. Captain, we're being hailed by the assembly flagship. It's High Protector Dravkor himself. Volkov nodded grimly. Tell them we'll be responding very soon, after we've finished our rescue mission. The reptilian face of High Protector Dravkor appeared on Volkov's portable communicator, scales flushed with rage. Captain Volkov, you have violated restricted space and interfered with a protected species. Withdraw immediately or face severe consequences. Volkov stood tall, the rescued Sarathai boarding her shuttle behind her. What I found here isn't protection, High Protector. It's genocide. And humans don't stand by while genocide happens. You Deathwolders understand nothing, Dravkor hissed. Some species must be guided with a firm hand for the greater stability of the galaxy. We understand one thing perfectly, Volkov replied, her voice steel. When someone calls for help, you answer. No matter what. As assembly ships descended toward their position, Volkov knew the real battle was just beginning. But looking at the grateful eyes of the Sarathai survivors, she had no regrets. The Deathwolders had answered the call, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Revolution of the Protected. We have 4 assembly warships on intercept course, Lieutenant Lindholm reported as their shuttle broke atmosphere. Her fingers flew across the tactical console, calculating evasion patterns. 3 minutes to weapons range. Captain Volkov stood behind her pilot, one hand gripping the overhead rail as the shuttle bucked through turbulence. The Sarathai survivors huddled in the passenger compartment, their iridescent skin pulsing with fear patterns. Status of the Intrepid? Volkov demanded. Commander Nakamura has positioned the ship between us and the approaching vessels, came the response. He's buying us time, but the assembly battlecruiser is demanding our surrender. Volkov tapped her comm unit. Nakamura, this is Volkov. Activate contingency protocol Delta. There was a pause before Nakamura's calm voice replied, Delta confirmed, Captain. The galaxy's about to get very interesting. Protocol Delta was a desperate measure they had prepared after suspecting assembly interference in protected worlds. As the shuttle raced toward the Intrepid, the ship's advanced communications array activated, broadcasting on all frequencies across multiple sectors. Every piece of evidence they had gathered, the massacred Sarathai, the mining operations, the crystal extraction facilities, and most damning of all, the testimony of Elder Vex Illinois, was now streaming to every assembly world, human colony, and independent system within range. Transmission complete, Wright confirmed. We're getting acknowledgements from 17 major comm relays, including Earth Central Command. A harsh laugh escaped Volkov's lips. Now let's see how they explain this. The shuttle docked with the Intrepid just as the first assembly vessel entered weapons range. The massive reptilian face of High Protector Dravkor filled the main view screen as Volkov stepped onto the bridge. This is your final warning, Captain, Dravkor snarled. Return the Sarathai specimens immediately. Specimens. Volkov repeated, her voice dangerously quiet. For 50,000 cycles, Eshvan began, its voice translated through a vocoder. The Assembly has maintained galactic order through careful management of emerging civilizations. The Preservation Directive protects developing species from technological leaps they are not ethically prepared to handle. By executing them when they refuse to surrender their resources. Volkov challenged, displaying holographic evidence of the Sarathai massacres. Elder Vex Illinois stepped forward, his voice now fluent in English after days of intensive learning. My people were ready. We had debated the ethical implications of faster-than-light travel for generations. We had established environmental protocols for resource extraction. We sought to join the galactic community as equals, not as servants to be exploited. High Protector Dravkor, seated among the assembly delegation, hissed. Primitive species cannot comprehend the complexities of galactic stability. The resources of your worlds serve a greater purpose in assembly hands. And there it is, Admiral Tanaka said quietly. The truth behind your protection. An unexpected voice joined the debate, Ambassador Trelawney of the Myriad Consciousness, one of the Assembly's founding species. I have reviewed the evidence, the floating, jellyfish-like being announced. And consulted our historical archives. This exploitation was never the intent of the Preservation Directive. The chamber erupted in multiple languages as various delegates argued among themselves. 3 Assembly representatives immediately aligned with Trelawney's position, while others vehemently defended the Preservation Committee's actions. Volkov watched as the unified front of the Assembly fractured before her eyes. Centuries of carefully maintained narratives about protection collapsed under the weight of undeniable evidence. Commander Nakamura leaned close to her. You started a revolution, Captain. No, Volkov corrected him. The Seraphai did, when they refused to be victims. We just answered their call. 3 days later, a new compact was formed, the Sanctuary Alliance. Earth, along with 7 reformed assembly species and all the formerly protected worlds willing to join, established a mutual defense and development pact. The remaining assembly powers, though still formidable, could no longer maintain the fiction of their preservation programs. Standing on the observation deck of the orbital diplomatic station, Volkov watched Earth rotate slowly beneath her, its blue-green surface reminiscent of the Seraphai homeworld. Elder Vex Illinois joined her, his skin shimmering with patterns that Dr. Ortega had identified as expressing contentment. The Assembly called you Deathworlders, he said. They meant it as insult. It's accurate enough, Volkov admitted. Earth is harsher than many inhabited worlds. Higher gravity, more extreme weather, more dangerous wildlife. It shaped us. But not as they believed, Vex Illinois observed. They thought harshness would make you cruel, focused only on survival. Instead, it taught us cooperation, Volkov finished. On a death world, no one survives alone. You learn quickly that helping others isn't just moral, it's practical. My people have much to rebuild, Vex Illinois said. But we are not alone now. Admiral Tanaka's voice came through Volkov's comm unit. Captain, report to briefing room 3. We've received another distress signal, same mathematical pattern, different origin point. Volkov exchanged glances with Vex Illinois. Someone else heard what happened here, she said softly. And they believe you will answer, the Seraphai elder replied. As Volkov walked toward the briefing room, she reflected on how quickly the galaxy had changed. The Assembly's iron grip on developing species had been broken. The carefully controlled narrative of protection had shattered. And humanity, the upstart Deathworlders barely tolerated in galactic society, had found their purpose among the stars. The Deathworlders had answered a call for help, and in doing so, they hadn't just saved one species, they had started a revolution that would reshape the galaxy. Not through conquest or domination, but through a simple principle that had guided humanity since they first looked to the stars: when someone calls for help, you answer.